the City podcast.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Another edition of Keys to the City. I'm your host, Trevor Keys, alongside the big brother, Ted Keys. The Joseph Aguirre will be back next week as he has a golf tournament. He is a busy man right now, but we will have him back and recapping how the Yankees fared this week out in the West Coast against the Oakland Athletics as they hammered the Athletics last night. Big win, and they continue to, starting to win some games. But like I said, Ted, when we had this question last week, patience. Just relax. Baseball's a long season away. Long season. A lot is still happening in the world of baseball. Speaking of that, we are now T-minus 13 days away from the NFL season officially starting. The boys of fall are right around the corner as the Buffalo Bills will head over to LA, the West Coast, to take on the defending champs, the Los Angeles Rams. But we are here talking about our continuance of the division previews. And then we will have next week coming up, we'll have some bold predictions for the upcoming season. We'll also be talking about college football because, college football starts tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. And the first big game is in Dublin, Ireland. Hey, what do you think about that? The Nebraska Cornhuskers taking on the Northwestern. Let's see what happens with that game. I actually forgot their name because there's so many Wildcats. I was hoping you try to back me up and help me out with that because it's like the most common name in like college football. It's like the Wildcats.
Dude, are you wearing a sports jacket?
No, I'm not. It's just
a
button. It's a black button.
It kind of looks tight. It looks tight.
Tight? What do you mean tight? You mean it looks good? If you want to say it looks good, you could just say it looks good.
Like fat, like PH.
I don't look. No. Oh, fat like PHAT. Oh, okay. You got it, Ben Stiller. You got it. Speaking of looking fat and hot, that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've been rolling since TB12 has came over to the NFC, but this year feels a little different. You've been seeing a lot of the injury bugs now hitting, and to probably, other than the quarterback, the most important position in all of the NFL, the offensive line, the Buccaneers, Tristan Wirfs, Ryan Jensen, Robert Hainsey, and now the latest is Aaron Stinney, ACL out for the year. Ted, this is a team that since Tom Brady has come over, he has dominated the NFC. He's won a Super Bowl already. He's dominated this division, except for one team. And we're going to talk about this division and the AFC South because it's only really a two-team race. In both of these divisions, if you really look at it, you got the Falcons, you got the Panthers. They're kind of in the midst of a rebuild, don't know what they want to figure out, especially the Panthers, their quarterback situation. They got Baker, but we'll see what happens moving forward. And even with the AFC South, the Texans, they're in rebuild. Jacksonville, they're in rebuild. So it's really two teams in both of these divisions. But we're going to start off with TB12 and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But TB12s, let's call them the kryptonite of the Buccaneers and Tom Brady, as they have lost. Tom Brady is 4-5. His last 4 losses, regular season, to the New Orleans Saints, and been dominated. Looked lackluster, looked confused, and looked frustrated. As we all remember that Sunday night game last year when they lost 9-0. He's throwing the iPad at people. He's going over to coaching staffs and mother effing people.
Yeah,
it was not a good night for Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in that offense. It has not been fun for this Buccaneers offense when they play the New Orleans Saints. Ted, you look at the Saints team. They made a lot of nice additions in this offseason, going out and getting Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, going out and getting Jarvis Landry, a dependable slot receiver. Adding to another receiving core is Chris Olave in the draft, and then getting Trevor Penning, who they did lost Teron Armstead, I should say. Huge loss to the Dolphins in free agency. So, Ted, with the way this team has been playing and the way they've dominated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers recently, not including the playoffs, is this the year that the Saints have enough to dethrone Brady and the Bucs?
Why not? They've owned them. I mean, they've literally owned them the last couple of years. I know people would say, well, Sean Payton's not there. They got a new coach in Dennis Allen. But Jameis Winston last year, up until he got hurt, was doing pretty well, fairly well. 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks. He's got to get that completion percentage closer to 65%. He was at 59% last season. But if he could stay healthy, they have a solid offensive line. They have a stud running back in Alvin Kamara. Now, we don't know what's going to transpire with.
I think everything's pointing to him playing this year. It's more of probably next year where you're going to see this. They're already pushing back. They already pushed back one of the cases he had early on in August. So it seems like he could be playing Alvin Kamara.
So like I said, you got Alvin Kamara, and we know he's a stud. And listen, fantasy guys, he's a dominant. He's a first round pick easily.
He's a beast.
He has been since his rookie season. Michael Thomas hopefully will be healthy. He's on the field. We know what type of player he is. When he was with Drew Brees, honestly, he was the best receiver in football for that.
He was the slant king, as they call him.
But listen, possession, move the chains, keep it going. They drafted Chris Olave at Ohio State. Trevor, we know about him.
I think that
great route runner.
He's one of my draft sleepers. Oops, I told that. I think he's gonna be a stud.
And here's the other thing. Then you got Jarvis Landry too. You don't really have a guy that can really take the top off. Maybe that's going to be Olave. Because what do you run?
I think Olave. I think Olave can be that guy. I know he doesn't. He doesn't have the height, but he's got that breakaway
that's okay.
speed.
The height.
He's got the route running.
Nowadays. We've seen that. You got three studs at the receiver position. All three of them have potential star written all over them. Michael Thomas was there. If he can go back to form, he's a star. Another Ohio State guy. Chris Olave, Ohio State. Jarvis Landry, LSU. We know what type of potential these guys have. Jameis Winston's the key, though, right? Because we know that defense matches up for whatever reason why. I don't have a realistic explanation. They have Cameron Jordan, another Ohio State guy, another dominant defensive line.
No, Cam Jordan's from California.
Oh, Cal. I don't know who else.
Come on, bro. Come on, man. Ohio. You really said Ohio State. I'm sitting here thinking he's serious about this.
You're talking about the Northwestern. You're like, yeah, the Northwestern football.
Yeah. See, I might not. Yeah, because there's a million Wildcats in the college football world, but Cam Jordan went to Cal, bro. Get it right. I thought you were good with this.
Listen, and then you look at the defensive side of the ball game. All three levels, they have players. Cameron Jordan, like I said, Demario Davis. If you don't know him, get used to him. He's been a stud at the middle linebacker position. Bradley Roby at corner. And then they picked up Tyrann Mathieu in the free agency.
Did you say Marshawn Lattimore?
Oh, I forgot Marshawn Lattimore.
That's who's from Ohio. That's from Ohio State.
There you go.
No, but Marshawn Lattimore, he's been a shutdown corner since coming in this game.
Zach Bond, Pete Warner.
And Ted, last year, this was a team that was defensive ranked fourth in points per game, fourth in rushing yards per game, and seventh in yards per game. So this is a defense that has been stout for some time now.
They have all the potential to be great.
The same thing has always been.
I'm going to say something I think that a lot of people might. They have a realistic. That's anybody has a realistic. I think they have an easy chance to win this division. I think with everything that has transpired with the Bucs, I could see turmoil. Brady doesn't look like he wants to be there. I think at the time he was like, you know what? I've still got an itch for football. I'm not ready for this dad life. Then he has one of his players retire. Then he has another offensive lineman leave and retire. Then he has all these multiple injuries. Tristan Wirfs hopefully will be back for week 1 against September 11th against the Dallas Cowboys. But he's got 4 offensive linemen missing, right? Chris Godwin's coming off an ACL injury, so he won't be ready for week 1. He lost one of his favorite friends and targets in Gronk. So I know they brought in Kyle Rudolph. I know they brought in Julio Jones. I don't know what to expect from those guys because
don't forget about Russell Gage. I think Russell Gage could be a nice little piece.
We'll see. Yeah, absolutely. It could be a stud for the first couple of weeks. But and then of course the loss of Arians. I don't know if that's a positive or negative. For Brady, maybe it's like, I don't have a guy breathing down my back. I can run the thing. But Todd Bowles now, is because he's the head coach, is that going to take away from him as the defensive coordinator? But I think the Saints have a realistic chance, and I think people should look at them as a Super Bowl contender. Why not? I think the only reason why people don't is because they look at Jameis Winston as a liability. But I think if he plays smart, he plays his game, can get and play like he did last year with the Saints, where he was 13 touchdowns, 4 picks. So if he can get to 28 and 12, keep it under 14, 15 picks, because as much as we talked about the Rams last year, Matthew Stafford led the league in picks. And he had, 3 or 4 games where he had pick sixes. So you can throw pick sixes, but
it's okay to be aggressive.
Be aggressive, be smart, third down conversions. And then when you have a defense like the Rams did, dominate. And here's the thing.
And that's the thing. The Saints do have have a similar type defense. They're nasty.
Win your division, and you are the kryptonite of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think there's a lot of turmoil in Tampa, and it definitely sets up a possibility for the Saints. They love the home field advantage. We'll see what Sean Payton's loss is, but definitely they have what it takes to dethrone the Buccaneers.
Here's one of the interesting. I can't believe you said turmoil in Tampa. Oof. Tom Brady. We'll see. We'll see with that. But here's the thing: the past couple of years, definitely, it's been for the Saints. It's never been anything but one position. It's always been the quarterback. This was even but one Breeze. I know Jameis is the guy right now, but the same same kind of situation that we were talking about right now is what we were talking about 2-3 years ago with Drew Brees. When you see Drew Brees, that was the weakness. They couldn't get over the hump because of the fact that he didn't have a strong enough arm. It was always, is Brees going to be able to beat him over the top? He's got the defense. They got Sean Payton. They got the talent on offense, but it was always Brees. Now you look at this situation, it's very similar. Jameis Winston. You have all the pieces. You got the defense. You added more to that defense. You added to the offense. You're still going to have Alvin Kamara. You're going to have Mark Ingram as well, too. It's just, the main question be, can Jameis Winston be Drew Brees, but not be Drew Brees in the sense of, can he beat the defense over the top with his arm? And what we've seen in the past, Jameis Winston could do that. I mean, the guy had 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 30 picks in a season. It doesn't make any freaking sense. But this is a guy that could
33 and 30.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. I mean, that doesn't even make sense.
I think Sean Payton was able to reel him in and say, listen, we can be aggressive. We talked about it. We can be aggressive.
But he showed last year before this injury, Ted, that he can. He doesn't have to be that type of guy where he's always just throwing the ball.
Well, I think because he's surrounded by enough talent.
And being too he was overly aggressive in Tampa. I think we could all agree with that. The former number one pick.
Well, I think there was an expectation for him to just.
Of course, the number one pick.
Tampa. And I also think the offense for him was set up for failure, where it's like it's okay to check the ball down. It's okay. It's okay to punt the ball, and especially in the case with the Saints, is where you have a really reliable defense. This defense is, like you said, Trev, top 5 last year at all levels of their defense.
It's been for the past couple of years, even with Brees. That's why I always said the weakness and
was Drew Brees.
It was Drew Brees.
As much as we love Drew Brees, his ability to not be able to stretch the field, and Trev, we talked about this on multi-facets of our shows and other things, is we talked about like the Alex Smith thing with the Chiefs back in the day when we were going into it. Love Alex Smith, right? Mm-hmm. Solid quarterback. You're limited, bro. You were set in a box. And with a guy like Mahomes, there is no limitation. Similar to and we've talked about this with other quarterbacks, what a guy like Herbert does, what a guy like Josh Allen does. Similar to what we might talk about in a couple of weeks when we're talking about Trey Lance in San Francisco, where I know he's raw, but the talent is global. It's extreme. Jimmy G, solid. He got you to the Super Bowl, got you to the NFC Championship game, but he's limited. We know
you know how far he can take you. You're as limited as you are with guys like Alex Smith, guys like Drew Brees. At the end of Drew Brees' career, we're not going to talk about Drew Brees' career in general. We're talking about the last couple of years of the historic career of Drew Brees. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened to Jameis Winston, too, was sitting behind Brees for that 1 year, learning from an all-time great. And that's why I said, Jameis, be Brees, but don't be Drew Brees.
Well, and I also think
be who you are, like how you were in Tampa, but also take that advice and that information that you gathered in that 1 year from Drew Brees. Where last year, Ted, you said it. They were 5-2 at the time that he tore his ACL. He had 14 touchdowns and 3 picks. I mean, right there for Jameis Winston. Oh my God, that's hooray, hallelujah! Like praise the Lord.
Listen, if he plays, like I would say 500 ball afterwards, he's talking at least 27, 28 passing touchdowns. Now, the picks go up, but he's probably somewhere between 10 and 15. So 28 and 15, that's solid. And here's the other thing. I know he's moved to the tight end position, but on special plays, if they still keep that offense cohesive, you still got the Taysom Hill experience. We haven't even brought him. You can always bring him in on special downs. I think Jameis Winston also understands this year, even more importantly, is how every year he has to prove himself, right? You could see it in his eyes last year when he tore his ACL. He was very upset. I think he understands that, we have something special here. I cannot be the liability on this team because we have all the pieces to be great. And if you look at the NFC, you can't tell me that, and you look at this team, that any other team is that much better than them. I mean, I get it. The Bucs have some players, and the biggest difference of why we look at the Bucs as such favorites over the Saints is because of Brady. Tom Brady, and that's really what it comes down to. It's the quarterback. If your quarterback is not to the level where the best way I can explain it is the NFC North. There's Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and then there's Kirk Cousins. If we reverse roles, I mean, if anybody who better than Kirk Cousins was on the Vikings, we'd look at them as Super Bowl contenders. But we don't look at the Vikings as Super Bowl contenders because they have Kirk Cousins. I mean, because look at that team. I mean, Justin Jefferson and Thielen,
they got talent. Yeah,
and
talent
Smith
galore.
and Dalvin Cook and Madison in the backup running back, and they have. I mean, the skill on that team. I mean, you could put them as one of the top 5 offenses of the game. So if Jameis Winston doesn't screw this up, just play smart ball. I'm not saying be a game manager. Play, like you said, be aggressive, but be smart.
Yep, 100% agree. I mean, this is a team like you just said, Ted. The Bucs and Saints defense, they're identical. They both have legit elite defenses. They both have legit elite running backs in Fournette. They got weapons. They both have some question marks surrounding the offense. Probably give the edge to the Saints. Then you got the new coaches. You got Todd Bowles, second-time head coaches. Todd Bowles getting a second chance. Dennis Allen getting a second chance. It just ultimately comes down to this: the Saints have Jameis Winston, and the Bucs have Tom Brady, and that's why you give the edge. But when they do play, the history speaks for itself. Recent success, the Saints got their number. They know how to play this team. They know how to get into the head of Tom Brady and this team overall. So why can't they? I mean, we're not making any predictions. We're going to make predictions in the next few weeks. But why can't they? I think the key is, Ted, and we were looking him up, Pete Carmichael Jr. Who is that? The offensive coordinator. How is he going to make –
because
Sean Payton's gone.
He's filling in some big shoes. The other thing I was going to add to your point too is also the schedule. We were just joking around with the Chiefs schedule, but the Buccaneers schedule the first 4 weeks. Listen, I don't know how they're going to start out, but week 1 at the Cowboys. Listen, can't count out the Cowboys. Cowboys were home. Who knows what the Bucs team will look like week 1? Yeah. Brady's been on vacation / family trip, getting his mind right. They've dealt with injuries, so we'll see how that pans out. Week 2 at the Saints. We're talking about them right now. If the Saints can win that game right there, you're already a game up on the Bucs. Week 3 against the Packers. Week 4 against the Chiefs. That's the first 4 weeks of their season. There's a realistic chance the Bucs go 0-4, 1-3. And if the Saints start out smooth and start out really hot like they did last year, it sets them up for going forward.
The schedules.
We talked about it. Starting out fast. We know teams, if you're 4-0, likelihood to make the playoffs, percentage goes up. We know 0-4, 1-3. We talk about this with the Giants all the time. Starting out slow, your percentage-wise of making the playoffs is much tougher going forward.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, we'll see what happens. I know that we didn't talk about the Panthers or the Falcons in this situation because realistically, those are 2 teams. One team's in full rebuild mode, Atlanta, and the other team is they're trying to figure out their situation. They got talent on the team, Carolina, but they got a new quarterback, Baker Mayfield. We'll see how that transpires in Carolina. But this is really right now to us and to many a 2-team race. Speaking of a 2-team race, if there's any Houston or Jacksonville fans watching right now, probably not going to want to listen because right now we're going to talk about 2 teams in the AFC South, just like we talked about 2 teams in the NFC South, because that's what it comes down to. 2 teams that have been dominating this division over and over. The Tennessee Titans coming off a number 1 seed last year, but a disappointing first-round exit to the eventual AFC champs, the Cincinnati Bengals. And then you got the Indianapolis Colts. We already know the history of the Indianapolis Colts for the past 20 years. Since they've had Peyton Manning, they have Andrew Luck. This team has been riding high and dominating the AFC South, but Tennessee has won the past 2. Ted, you look at this 2-team race right now, and I know, what about Jacksonville? They made some nice pieces. I'm not saying that they could probably surprise people. Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson, could be a match made in heaven. But right now, that team is in a rebuild mode. They're just trying to get out of the dark hole of Urban Meyer, the dark shadows of Urban Meyer. If they can just come back to being respectable, that's what they want. They could have something special growing. We'll see what happens with Houston. And Houston as well, too. Both teams. We'll see what happens. But right now, realistically, just like the NFC South, to many, this is a 2-team race. So, Ted, I'll give you the 4 difference makers, and you could probably, if you want to give me another one, the main 4 guys in this race, realistically, are the 2 quarterbacks. I know it's so obvious. Matt Ryan, the newly acquired Matt Ryan, and Ryan Tannehill. And then you got the 2 studs in the backfield, Jonathan Taylor, and to some, and Derrick Henry, to some, like I just said,
what's
the
funny?
2 best running backs in the game right now, with the exception of maybe a Christian McCaffrey.
Honestly, I'm thinking while my mind's rolling of like, what do I want to say? I'm looking at these teams. I'm like, very, very similar teams, similar coaching, former players. Frank Wright, off coach, Vrabel, very smart guy, very intellectual. We know that.
He was the quarterback for the. He was the quarterback in the Bills Oilers game.
Oh, I know that. So you got the
I
similarities.
didn't know if you. I thought.
Oh no, you got the similarities. You got two veteran quarterbacks. I think both have the same potential. They're both where they both can be great and they both can look subpar. And you question if they even should be a starting quarterback. Both have stud running backs. The thing I think about them is both don't have a stud receiver. These two teams don't really
We'll
have.
see if Michael Pittman can make that leap.
Exactly, but listen, let's get into the program. Like guys are jumping in the league right now, and
I think Pittman's going to be a stud by this year.
Jefferson, I mean, Odell Beckham, guys are coming in this league now, and there is no 1, 2, 3 years waiting for a receiver.
Well, Tennessee did have a stud.
Yeah, well, I know that, but they don't have a stud no more.
I get it. I get it.
AJ Brown was a stud, okay, and now it's Treylon Burks from Arkansas. Robert Woods coming off an ACL injury, so they have a nice bunch of two guys and rookies. But where is the passing game for the Titans? Honestly, because that's really where I look at it is I could see Matt Ryan controlling this off. Both also have really good offensive lines too. All right, I think the Colts have a better defense.
Oh, the Colts have a much better defense. Yeah, vastly better.
I mean, DeVorest Buckner, Kitty Play, Darius Leonard, which now is
Kwity Paye just. I don't know if you saw. Kwity Paye is actually just dealt with another injury.
Oh, wow.
He just had another serious leg injury. And don't forget about their stud linebacker, All-Pro, Shaquille, not Darius Leonard anymore, Shaquille Leonard, who's an All-Pro since coming into this league. And Ted, you were just saying, my big thing is.
I will say this. If you're asking me the question, what's the difference maker? I would say
yeah. Who do you think? I mean, is there somebody different? I mean, like I said, hold on. Is it the possibility? And call me crazy, and I don't really care. Call me crazy. I don't care. Can I just throw out the name Malik Willis? Yeah, see, it makes you think because if Tannehill, from all the raves that we've been hearing, Tannehill's been not struggling. He's actually been lights out in training camp. He's been great. And we saw a glimpse of Malik Willis last week. My thing is,
for them, it's the passing game. Because here's the thing. Your point goes into my thought process. If the Titans can't develop a passing game, Malik Willis now becomes someone you have to think about because his ability to extend plays, run, move, where Tannehill's
got some athletic ability, but Malik Willis
is on a whole nother level.
But that can open up the defenses. That could keep them on their toes. Him and Derrick Henry can have a nice little read option in the back. That could be deadly.
Listen, I think this is, I'm not making predictions, but I kind of am. I think this is the Colts divisional win. I like Matt Ryan with this team. This will be the best offensive line he's had since his MVP or Super Bowl years. This will be the best running back he's ever played with. Now, this might be the weakest core of receivers and passing game that he's ever done, but I think as a veteran guy who knows what he has in front of him, kind of like the Winston thing, don't screw it up, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be protected. You're going to have a solid running game, if not one of the 2 or 3 best running games in the football. You have an offensive-minded coach. Listen, Carson Wentz had all the ability last year to do, and he just screwed it up. He was the reason. No one else. I think Matt Ryan's a much better version of Carson Wentz. I look at them winning 10, 11, 12 games maybe this year. Because I look at their first 2 games, they're Texans and the Jacksonville. They should go 2-0 right off the bat. They don't have a tough schedule right off the bat. They should go 4-0 with those 2 games. If they split against Tennessee, all right, you're winning the division. There's your division. Then take care of the rest of your. They have all the potential. This is where I look at like this could be the Green Bay Packers last year. They could win 12, 13 games. Let the AFC West beat up on each other. The only competition I would see to winning the division, again, the number 1 seed would be the Bills, because everyone looks at the Bills as such front runners. But could the Bills struggle a little bit against Patriots, the Jets, or Miami? That would be my only question. The Colts, if they take care of business with their division, they could win this division and have the number 1 seed. They have all the possibilities because you like everything that they have. This could be the Colts' year to get that 1 or 2 seed. So my difference would be what type of passing game is the Titans going to have? Because if they have no passing game, I think they have no shot. Because then everyone's going to – Trev, I'm going to relate this. I know people who are watching from the outside won't know what the hell I'm talking about. But this is like North Haven football. If we're going to just do the old school single wing and we're just going to run the football, well, they're going to stack 8 in the box against Derrick Henry and go one-on-one with 1 safety over the top and say, go beat us. And no one's afraid of Tannehill and no one's afraid of any of their receivers. So if they're not able to develop any passing game, I don't see Derrick Henry being a force this year, because then you're going to play goal line defense and say beat it.
Teams have been doing that for the past couple of years. They still don't have
But
no
not.
answer
But
for
at least
that.
you had to respect AJ Brown.
I get you. The whole thing about this is, I mean, Tannehill, he's looked sharp so far in preseason training camp. We'll see how the new look offense looks with this, with the subtraction of AJ Brown. He's 30-13 as a Titan quarterback, by the way. But his most famous memory as a Titan quarterback is last year, losing in the divisional round to the Cincinnati Bengals, in which your defense gave you a hefty amount of opportunities to win the game, and you went 1 for 3. You went 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Derrick Henry missed 9 games last year. We already know what he's meant to this offense. You know they're 20-3 in his career when he rushes for over 100 yards.
I think I saw something crazy like that last
I
year.
just look at 20-3.
When he's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been such a force. I sent you I told you the stat before. 955 touches in the past 3 seasons. I mean, so you got to be a little nervous about this team too, because, excuse me, will his body start breaking down? I know he's a force in the gym. How will his body? I mean, maybe he'll be fresh. Maybe he'll be fresh because he missed all that time last year, so he didn't get all the wear and tear that he would normally get. Maybe he's looking for a rebound. Who knows? I think this team, the Titans, are a big question mark because they were the number 1 seed last year, right? Yeah. So and after the way they lost last year, after sacking Joe Burrow, 8-9 times, and then losing the way they did.
Yeah.
Listen, for me, it's always been the Tannehill thing. Because we talked about this last year. Tannehill feels like the liability, but they don't have any receivers. And that's something I've thought about with the Titans. Like, why were they not going to get receivers? Like, why would you not? This game is about throwing the football. This league is about not running no more.
That's but it is tough. It is tough. I mean,
the Cowboys offense runs through Zeke. Sorry, bro. This is not 1993 with Emmitt Smith.
But it is tough. It is tough when you have the best running back in football.
But here's the thing: you don't have any weapons on the outside. You got to have balance, man. You can have thunder and lightning like the Giants did, as long as you got Amani Toomer and Plaxico Burress and a tight end to go down the middle of the field.
They tried to make something work with having AJ Brown and Julio. It didn't work.
Well, Julio couldn't stay healthy. And AJ Brown was still good, but he had some injuries last year too.
Here's my whole thing about this, and I've been hearing this for this whole offseason, and you know what I'm about to go with, because I don't get this narrative about I don't get this whole narrative of Matt Ryan. Like, everybody thinks that hold on. Yeah, roll your freaking eyes. I don't care. I don't understand this narrative about Matt Ryan. So I got a couple things. His last 4 years, I got stats, averages.
Yeah, but how good were the Falcons before?
I get that. The Falcons were not a good team, but they were 25-39 the past 4 seasons. I'll give you his stats. Average 26 touchdowns, 11 picks, 4,500 yards.
Good number.
He's coming to a team. You just talked about the Tennessee offense, a passing attack. This team was ranked 26th in the league in passing yards. This is also their 5th starting quarterback since Andrew Luck retired in 2019. My whole thing.
Biggest what if in NFL history.
They also added Stephon Gilmore, if you remember.
I know that. I said that.
To a team that tied for first last year with 14 turnovers with Dallas. My thing is, I see no difference between him and Phillip Rivers. You traded for a guy, and today you just talked about in today's NFL, Ted.
Mobility.
About the passing game. And that's great. And you're 100% right. You need to have a stud number 1 receiver in today's game. You can have a great running back, but the value of running backs, we know where it is. It's kind of at the bottom of the food chain. You need a number 1 receiver. Tennessee doesn't have that right now. The Colts, we'll see if Michael Pittman becomes that. But you also got to have a quarterback that has the ability to move out of the pocket. Let's be honest.
Well,
Matt Ryan is in a hold on.
Last year giving up sacks.
Matt Ryan is in a dying breed. And when I say dying breed, he's in the breed of the pocket passer. There ain't many left in this game, with the exception of him, Brady. I'm not even going to put Rodgers, because of Rodgers, we know he can move out of the pocket and make some fantastic, incredible plays when he gets out of the pocket. But to me, Matt Ryan is kind of like an Eli. Yeah, Phillip Rivers, a statue. Big Ben for the past couple of years, a statue. You're not going to win with that. I don't believe that Matt Ryan is going to be anything better than what Phillip Rivers was. And that is, they were a wild card team. They got into the wild card, but they lost to the Buffalo Bills. I don't see no difference with Matt Ryan. And I'm sorry,
Okay.
I know the slander.
So-
I know. Hold on, and I know the slander that I've been going at for years with Matt Ryan, and I know you've been a pretty big supporter of Matt Ryan for a while. But me, I've been the complete opposite. I don't see where this guy gets you over the hump. I don't see it, especially in this AFC. If this was in the NFC, Ted, okay, I would understand it with the team that they have. But in the AFC, you're still going to have those 4 AFC West teams. You're going to have 3 or 4, possibly depending on the whole Deshaun Watson situation, where they're going to be when he comes back. You're going to possibly have 4 teams in the AFC North. You're going to have 2. I'm going to go 1 team right now in the AFC East. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills right now for a team that you're going to have to beat. Because the Colts are a better team to me than the Dolphins.
All right,
and then you got Tennessee, who is right now got question marks. So this is a team that's still going to have to face a lot of great teams in your own conference. To say that Matt Ryan and this team is going to be maybe a dark horse, I get it. But to say maybe 1 seed with Matt Ryan, I don't see how this team is any better. Than when they had Phillip Rivers.
I think decision making by Matt Ryan will be better than Carson Wentz.
Okay.
I want to make sure I was correct.
I get that.
So they had given up the 10th least amount of sacks in the league.
Well, they got a great offensive line.
That's what I'm saying. The Bucs were number 1, Bills were 2. I have all the stats in front of me. I was looking at it. I found it online. They were 9th in scoring, 26.5. They were 9th in defense, opponents scoring at 21.5. Problem is, like you said, passing game was 211, rushing was 2nd in the league. I think part of that passing has to do with they don't have a stud receiver. Like,
I think Pittman hopefully
if they have money, they should go get a guy like Odell Beckham. I don't understand why you wouldn't.
It's also you got to.
If I'm the Dallas
Cowboys, Beckham, marketable.
Bring in Beckham, bro. Beckham and Pittman.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about of course the Colts should, but him.
Listen,
Beckham,
I understand he's not
New York,
November,
LA guy.
I just think more weapons for an older quarterback helping a guy out. They were 9-8 last year.
I'm saying the difference maker in this division is not Derrick Henry. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor. I say Jonathan Taylor has to be the difference maker. It's funny you say all that stuff with Derrick Henry when we said how the success of the Tennessee Titans. Well, in Jonathan Taylor's career, the Colts are 12-1 when he rushes for over 100 yards. He was remember, we were saying that Jonathan Taylor could win MVP up until maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks. We were considering Jonathan Taylor as a MVP favorite. And the offense, kind of like Tennessee, revolves around Jonathan Taylor. Both of these guys, these teams are so nearly identical. It's just the edge that you would give is the defense of the Colts. But you look at the quarterback play.
The rushing was all top. The passing average, though, that's the thing. Passing yards.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is that the quarterback?
Here's the other thing. Passing attempts, 20th. They were 9th in the league in giving up sacks. So
that's what I'm trying to say. These teams are nearly identical in the sense of you look from top to bottom. They both lack a true number 1. Maybe Michael Pittman takes that leap and takes that next step. Okay. They both have hold on. They both have 2 elite running backs. They both have solid offensive lines. The Colts have the better defense. They both have former players as coaches who have been great since being hired by both teams.
Absolutely.
And they got quarterbacks that have talent, have won in this league, but are they good enough to get you to a championship?
Listen, I don't know if they're good enough to get to the Super Bowl. I don't even know if they could get to number 1 seed. But I think with the potential of the division being bad, and I don't know what the Titans are going to be this year. Then again, did anyone think they were going to be a number 1 seed last year? Maybe. I don't know.
Especially with Derrick. You got to think Derrick Henry was out for the last 8 games.
Hey, here's the other thing. Were they going to be the number 1 seed?
You getting hot over there? You getting hot flashes?
Yeah, I'm getting hot flashes because I'm excited for football. I'm sweating over here. But Baltimore was the number 1 seed before Lamar got hurt, and we talked about this. So, where would Tennessee have been really if Lamar was healthy all season? And the Ravens didn't have 35,000 injuries last year where they lost both running backs before the thing. They lost both cornerbacks, safety, lineman. Ronnie Staley was out. This guy was out. And that speaks volumes to who John Harbaugh is as a coach, that he was able to overcome all those injuries and still – at week 12, week 11 or something, they were the number 1 seed. So
they were 8-3.
Here's the thing. I thought Carson Wentz cost the Colts last year at least 2 games. At least 2 games that I could think of. I thought the Tampa Bay game and one other game that I can't think of.
Tennessee, remember the Tennessee game in overtime? He threw a pick early in the season.
Oh my God.
And then I mean,
So
look,
here's my
Carson
thing.
Wentz, look at Carson Wentz's stats last year were not. I mean, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks, but we'll always remember Carson Wentz's tenure as a quarterback of the Colts was week 18 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, losing 26-11.
Could Matt Ryan not make that crucial mistake to cost his team? Because I think, like some of these teams,
does he make the crucial mistake? No. But does he win you a Super Bowl?
Mistake, I think they'll be in a good position to succeed and be one of the top 3 seeds.
But is he enough? But is he good enough to get you to win you a Super Bowl? Maybe back in 2016 he was when he won his MVP.
But here's the thing, Trevor, he always hasn't been athletic. He's been stagnant since he's come in the league. So my thing is this: don't screw it up. You have everything. You have everything in front of you. You have the running game. You have the offensive line. You have a solid defense. You have the coaching. The only thing you maybe is a liability is the receiving game. But if you're a good enough quarterback, similar to the Tom Brady stuff, is make other people better, right? Make other people better, and hopefully they have some guys that step up for them that we're not aware of right now during the season, and maybe we'll see that when the season goes on. But right now, I think this is the Colts division to win and to dominate. But like I said, if Matt Ryan, plays poo-poo, and Ryan Tannehill continues this, consistency and well played through preseason into the regular season. Derrick Henry comes out strong. We both said it. When their running backs dominate and rush for over 100 yards, they're both unbeatable. So we'll see what happens weeks. What are we, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks away?
13 days away. And you also said this Colts, they got some weapons. I mean, Paris Campbell, if he could stay healthy, is a nice addition in the slot. The kid Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, has been getting raves as well.
Yeah, also Ashton Doolin has been playing receiver.
And they got more. They have a huge, like, lot of big receivers.
Kiki,
like 6'4", 6. Yeah, Kiki Coute. They have Mo Alley Cox at tight end. This is a team that they got the pieces. They got the offensive line. They got the protection. They got the stud back. They got the dominant defense. It's Matt Ryan. Guess what? They went out and tried to get Carson Wentz last year to see if it worked. It failed miserably at the end. Now it's on Matt Ryan.
This team is so funny because they went from Philip Rivers to Carson Wentz to literally Matt Ryan. And it's like they're trying to grab onto something that might not be there. And because this team has all the potential in the world, too. I know.
That's why to me, that we'll see. I've not been a fan of Matt Ryan. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think he's well beyond his year, way past it. And I think this is a very similar situation to them going to get Philip Rivers. That's just me. That's my take. I might be crazy. Don't really care. But I just don't.
It got him to the playoffs, and then they lost.
That I expect the Colts. I expect the Colts to get to the playoffs. I expect them to, but I don't expect them to win a Super Bowl. Not with Matt Ryan. Just no. I just don't. When people say, "Oh, they can make the Super Bowl," I just don't see it with Matt Ryan. I'm sorry. I just don't.
Well, we also don't know what injuries and things go on. Maybe they're getting them. We'll see. Listen, no one thought the Bengals would either. We'll see what happens. I also look at, like you said, we talk about all these teams that have skill and talent around them. The Colts, as much as we like them, you look around. I mean, Miami has better talent. Cincinnati. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Baltimore doesn't really have any receivers either. So they're a similar team like the Colts and the Titans. We're like, but their one thing is their quarterback is the fastest guy in the league again.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll see what happens with that. They have 13 more days. They have, I should say about 16 more days, 15 more days to figure out if Lamar Jackson is going to have a long-term deal signed, or will they be playing the waiting game throughout the season? We will see. Next week we'll be back. We'll talk about, like I said, D. Joseph Aguilar will be joining us. We'll be talking about the Yankees recap in the West Coast. Can they continue to win? We'll talk about college football. And I think we didn't finish off. We got to finish off with the NFC West. We never talked about the NFC West yet. We talked about every other division except the NFC West.
We talked about the AFC West.
We talked about the AFC West. We talked about the East Coast teams. Talked about the Patriots. Talked about the Giants. Talked about the Eagles. We talked about the Dolphins.
So we did the NFC West. What's wrong with us?
We saved the champs for last. But there might be a team out in that West Coast Bay that may be more talented, and will they dethrone the champs in that division? Who are we talking about? We'll see what happens. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Keys to the City. You can check us out on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe, or share. We'll see you next episode. We are out.
You are now in tune to the Keys to the City podcast.